Sinead O Connor, Empath or Narcissist, Part 8. Hello, I'm HG Tudor as we continue our deep dive into the life of Sinead O Connor to examine evidence, much of it provided from her own recollections, but also provided from interviews, television appearances, interviews and news articles also, to form a picture of the recently deceased artist, musician, singer, to make a determination for the purposes of education as to what she was. We now turn to the question of her relationships. A person's intimate relationships provide us with particular information to understand more about them. How many intimate relationships have they had? Have they been in a long, stable marriage? Have they had repeated short relationships? Have they got married and then divorced, married and then divorced? Are they known for the commission of infidelity? Has it been proven or is it just rumoured? Are they known as being a faithful individual? Are there rumours about chicanery in relationships? What do the ex-spouses, ex-partners have to say about those that have been in the relationship with the subject? All of this provides us with a wealth of material to make an assessment. We can determine, is this person showing accountability to the relationship, that they recognise boundaries, that they're supportive, that they provide emotional assistance, that they recognise the needs and requirements of the other person, that they exhibit signs of emotional empathy through their fidelity, through their concern and their compassion. Alternatively, do they show a necessity of always being in a relationship but moving from one to another? Do they show a lack of regard for people's feelings in the way that they're treated in the relationship? Have they been abusive in the relationship in some shape or form? We glean much from this. With regard to Sinead O Connor, she had a number of notable relationships. She was married 4 times. She was married to John Reynolds from 1987 to 1991, Nicholas Summerlad from 2001 to 2004, Steve Cooney from 2010 to 2011, and Barry Herridge. She also had relationships with Tex Axile, Anthony Kiedis in 1990, Peter Gabriel between 92 and 93, John Waters between 95 and 96, Donal Lunny 2003 to 2004, Frank Bonadio 2006 to 2007. So a number of relationships that were known about, and many of them didn't last particularly long. A pattern of many intimate relationships is an indicator with regard to a narcissist. The reason being that the narcissist draws people in and then becomes bored with them. The fuel becomes stale and the individual starts to threaten the control of the narcissist, resulting in devaluation, which either leads to the victim escaping or, more usually, the narcissist disengaging from that individual when an appropriate trigger has been released. Then the narcissist invariably goes straight into a relationship with somebody else because of the necessity of having an intimate partner primary source. With regard to the pattern of the relationships that Sinead O Connor had, it can be seen that she was certainly during the 90s and the 2000s invariably in a relationship with someone. But it also has to be borne in mind that that could also be a symptom of codependency, seeking out relationships and quite possibly with narcissists. And therefore the fact that she was often in relationships might have been the case that she was driven by codependency to enter into them and found herself drawn to unsuitable individuals. Hence, they didn't last for long. One notable relationship, and we'll return to it shortly, was with Barry Herridge, who she was married to for a very short period of time in 2011, and then had some involvement with him again in 2023. But it's also noteworthy that post-Barry Herridge, there was a period of some 10 to 12 years where she didn't appear to be in a relationship. This would be unusual for a narcissist. Usually the narcissist has an intimate relationship. Higher echelon narcissists, usually graters, are able to operate with perhaps intimate partner secondary sources rather than always having an intimate partner primary source. However, most other narcissists would need an intimate partner primary source and would either have a brief period with an IPSS and then back to an IPPS and then moving between the two repeatedly. For Sinead O Connor to have a long period of time, some 10 to 12 years, where she didn't appear to be in a relationship, militates against her being a narcissist. Of course, it also has to be borne in mind that it might be the case that she was utilizing non-intimate partners during that period as a primary source. Her first husband was John Reynolds. They tied the knot in 1987, and they had one child together, a son named Jake. A musician in his own right, Reynolds doubled as a drummer and music producer. In fact, he collaborated with O'Connor on several of her albums, including her first, The Lion and the Cobra, released in October of that year. Reynolds joined forces with O'Connor on a number of other records, among them I Do Not Want What I Have Not Got in 1990 and Universal Mother in 1994. He also drummed for O'Connor's band on her 2013 tour, which was after their relationship had ended. O'Connor and Reynolds ended their marriage in 1991. In July 2015, the Irish artist announced that she became a grandmother at age 48 after her son Jake welcomed his first baby. In May 2016, O'Connor penned a scathing open letter to her ex-husband and their child on Facebook, following a mysterious alleged disappearance in a Chicago suburb earlier the same day. Addressed to Reynolds, O'Connor wrote, "You tell that evil son of ours that a person who suffers from 2 fucking medical conditions, of which the symptoms include suicidal compulsion, isn't being manipulative, if while he is being a fucking chauvinist bully like his grandfather, they say they're going to or feel like killing themselves." In her Facebook diatribe against Jake and her ex Reynolds, she alleges they abandoned her for being suicidal. The letter included several broadsides against Reynolds, with Sinead promising, "I will see you all in court. I want damages. I've been able to work. I have lost last year's income and this year's. I've had enormous medical expenses and enormous trauma because of your torturing of me. As I said, we are all going to court, and we are going to have this out in full public, for once and for all." Quite the outburst, and would appear to be a rather public smearing of both her son and her ex-husband. This certainly denotes an absence of emotional empathy to talk about them in this way. Was this representative of the fact that she had none at all, or was this simply an instance of where her emotional empathy was reduced as a consequence of some other form of mental health? She also said about John in her memoirs, "John really deserves his own chapter in this book, because he's like my brother and my best friend in this world. I have known him since I was 18 and he was 28, and that's a long set of years. He has always been there for me as a friend, even when I've been wrong. He has always been my rock, and has always taken care of me. I've had the absolute funniest times of my life with John, and I've never laughed so much with any other human being, nor farted out loud as much. John is a legendary farter out loud and is catching. He has been and still is an incredible father to Jake, and thank God, Jake is the spit of him, as we say in Ireland. They're so alike. I couldn't find words to describe how much I love John and how much he means to me. He is my family. And I wouldn't have sung nearly anything well if not for the fact I was comfortable enough with him to be recording there in my pyjamas and slippers, him making me cry laugh with farts emitted in time to backing tracks. I'd be lost without John in my life. I'd be nothing without the companionship and creativity and brotherhood and laughter and emotional support he has given me. He is the very anchor of my life. These just are not words, but the catalogue of music we have made together over the course of the last 35 years says it all, and is the legacy of our bond, a beautiful dance through the life we have had together, and still have, and always will have. Contrasting views that she has of Mr. Reynolds. On the one hand, lashing out at him, accusing him of torturing her, and then on another occasion, speaking of him with high praise. Is this the black and white thinking of a narcissist, engaging in the devaluing comments and then idealization? Or is it simply the case that her recollection from her book is accurate and she experienced a momentary burst of hatred towards him driven by something else? Certainly, information to consider in making an assessment about her. But that was just her first husband. There were more, and join me in part 9 as we examine them to understand more about the relationship dynamics that she had with her husbands and also to understand what this tells us